I have case 10. Case 10 is about a tech consultant named Joe whose friend named Rob gets a brain-computer interface chip implanted in his brain so that he can perform better in Rainbow Six Siege, the video game. Joe is immediately concerned about the fairness, the risks, and the ethics of these things. The emphasized moral dilemma here is mostly on the aspect of fairness, on the aspect of whether or not this is cheating for the game. There is a slight mention of the security of it, and a little bit of a mention of if these brain chips are allowed, will it leave people without these brain chips behind? But the main aspect is whether or not this is fair. I know that the emphasis of this question was mostly based on the fairness. However, I do believe that it should not be ignored that this is a person who is adding a computer chip to their brain, putting machine in their brain, which is, if you're not religious, what human beings experience life through. That is where the consciousness is. And I feel that this is similar to the idea of singularity. This is pushing us closer to it, where if man and machine become one, that is probably bad. This is something that I kind of glossed over in the question, but I do think it is an important thing to add here. Now, to decide whether or not this is fair, you have to look at what is considered fair. Obviously, not everybody can have the exact same gear all of the time. People have different preferences. People like and dislike certain things. Esports, for example, you don't have to use the same exact controller as the guy sitting next to you. There are certain specs that it has to go into, but it doesn't have to be the same exact thing. So you could argue that this is not cheating because it is just using different gear. However, it has been shown that things like battery packs, things you can put on in the battery slot that makes your aim better, that does all these things for you, they have been considered cheating in many video games. It is shown that even things that are done externally on the controller can be considered cheating. And I think that the same logic would apply to these computer chips. That computer chip is a thing that artificially enhances your performance and therefore would not be allowed in competitive gaming. I do see where somebody could say that making rules on this would be irrational because it would be almost impossible to enforce. How can you tell if somebody has a chip in their brain? The way that I think you should go about that is that in a lot of games, the way that you find out somebody is cheating is not necessarily by catching them cheating, as in seeing what they are doing to cheat, but it is seeing them do things that would be otherwise impossible. In this specific example, Rob had a giant spike in performance. So if you were a game developer or a moderator and you were watching Rob's play and you were seeing his results and his kill death and his KD ratio or kill to death ratio went up by 5, you would then see that as suspicious, flag that, and then watch. And in more competitive aspects, such as esports, you'd have the actual video of it. So you could look and say, see, that's impossible for someone who does not have one of these chips to do. Another aspect that you could say is that it would be unfair to say that you can't play if you have a chip, because that is something that some people might need for medical reasons, or it could be something that somebody just does for themselves, for their life, to improve their life, and they can't change that, right? I would imagine that it would be very difficult to take one of those out. And so to say that you can no longer play a video game for the rest of your life is absurd. I would respond to that by saying that the point of competitive video games is to have a fair and competitive environment. and anything that goes outside of that fair and competitive environment hurts the game itself. It would not be fair to the rest of the players if this guy has a performance enhancer